Nathan Brooks sat alone in his dimly lit office, the faint hum of machinery filling the silence. Outside, the once blue skies of Earth were now a dull gray, choked with pollution and despair. The air smelled of rust and decay, a constant reminder of what humanity had lost. Nathan stared at the holographic screen before him, replaying the final broadcast from the Galactic Council. It was a message that would haunt him forever. The Council's voice was calm but firm, their words cutting deeper than any blade. Humanity has failed to uphold the standards required for membership in the galactic community. Your planet is dying, your resources depleted, and your people divided. We have given you time, assistance, and opportunities to correct your course. But it is too late. Humanity must abandon the galaxy. Nathan clenched his fists as the transmission ended. He felt anger, shame, and an overwhelming sense of failure. For decades, he had worked tirelessly as part of the Stellar Initiative, humanity's last hope to prove itself worthy among the stars. But now, all those dreams lay shattered. The Council's decision wasn't just about Earth, it was a verdict on everything humanity had ever built or dreamed of achieving. Meanwhile, aboard the Exodus fleet, Clara Hayes moved through the narrow corridors of the Eternal Dawn, her boots clicking softly against the metal floor. She was young, barely in her 30s, but already bore the weight of responsibility far beyond her years. As an engineer, she knew the fleet's survival depended on her ability to keep its engines running. Yet, tonight, she couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness gnawing at her chest. Clara paused near a viewport, staring out at the dark expanse of space. Behind her, the voices of crew members echoed faintly, discussing the Council's announcement. Some sounded angry, others defeated. A few even whispered about rebellion, though no one dared say it loudly. Clara didn't join these conversations. Instead, she thought about Earth, the home she had left behind, and wondered if they were making the right choice by fleeing. Back on Earth, chaos reigned. Crowds surged around the remaining evacuation ships, desperate to escape the doomed planet. Soldiers struggled to maintain order, their faces grim beneath helmets streaked with dirt. Fires burned in the distance, lighting up the night like a cruel sunset. Nathan watched the scene unfold from his office window, feeling both detached and deeply connected to the suffering below. He turned back to his desk, where a small device lay hidden beneath piles of papers. It contained encrypted files, data fragments hinting at the existence of Elysium Prime, a colony humanity had long forgotten. Nathan hesitated, his hand hovering over the device. Could this be their second chance, or was it just another false hope? As the hours ticked by, Nathan made up his mind. He slipped the device into his pocket and grabbed his coat. There was no time to waste. If anyone could decipher the coordinates and find Elysium Prime, it was him. And if there was even the smallest chance humanity could start over, he owed it to them to try. On the Eternal Dawn, Clara continued her rounds, checking each engine bay with meticulous care. She stopped briefly to speak with a fellow crew member, Alex, who shared her doubts about the mission. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" she asked quietly, glancing around to ensure no one else was listening. Alex shrugged, his expression unreadable. "Does it matter? We don't have a choice anymore." Clara nodded but said nothing. Deep down, she disagreed. Choices always existed, even when they seemed impossible. And as the fleet drifted further away from Earth, she couldn't help but wonder what paths they might yet take, and whether humanity's story would end here or begin anew somewhere else. Nathan Brooks stood in the shadow of the Exodus fleet's towering engines, his mind racing with memories. The roar of machinery filled the air as workers scrambled to prepare the ships for departure. He thought back to the early days of the Stellar Initiative, a time when humanity believed it was destined to conquer the stars. Back then, Nathan had been full of hope, convinced that Earth's problems could be left behind as they expanded into the galaxy. Now, those dreams felt like ashes in his hands. He remembered the first wave of colonization, missions, grand expeditions, sent to distant planets, with promises of new beginnings. Elysium Prime had been one of those colonies, a world chosen for its fertile soil and mild climate. For years, reports came back of thriving settlements and groundbreaking discoveries. Then, suddenly, the updates stopped. Communication broke down, and Earth turned its focus inward, abandoning the colony, along with countless others. It wasn't until now, decades later, that Nathan realized how much they had lost, not just land, but hope itself. As he walked through the crowded hangar, Nathan noticed groups of refugees huddled together, their faces pale and drawn. Some clutched personal belongings, while others stared blankly into space. Among them was a young boy, no older than 10, holding a tattered toy spaceship. The sight made Nathan pause. He knelt beside the boy and asked gently, "What's your name?" "Liam," the boy replied softly, clutching the toy tighter. "Do you know where we're going, Liam?" Nathan asked. The boy shook his head. "My mom says we're leaving Earth behind. She says there's nowhere else to go." Nathan forced a smile, though his heart ached. Maybe she's wrong. Maybe there's still somewhere out there waiting for us. On board the Eternal Dawn, Clara Hayes sat in the crew lounge, scrolling through old mission logs on her tablet. Her shift had ended hours ago, but sleep eluded her. The broadcast from the Galactic Council replayed in her mind, each word heavier than the last. Humanity abandoned. Too late. The phrases echoed like a death sentence. Her thoughts were interrupted by Daniel Carter, a charismatic leader among the refugees. He slid into the seat across from her, his sharp eyes scanning her face. "You look troubled," he said with a faint smile. Clara shrugged, just thinking about what comes next. Daniel leaned forward, lowering his voice. "What? If I told you there's another option? A place we haven't tried yet?" Clara frowned. "Like where?" He hesitated before answering. "Elysium Prime?" The name sent a chill down her spine. That colony disappeared years ago. No one knows what happened to it. "Exactly," Daniel said, his tone urgent. "Which means it's worth investigating. If even a fraction of it survived, it could save us." Clara wanted to argue, to tell him he was chasing ghosts. But something in his eyes stopped her. Hope, however fragile, was a rare thing these days. "How do you know about this?" she asked finally. Daniel glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "I overheard some scientists talking. They mentioned encrypted files, coordinates." Someone has them, Clara's mind raced. Could it be true? Was there really a chance to start over? Before she could respond, an alarm blared through the ship, startling everyone in the lounge. Voices erupted in panic as the lights flickered. Overhead. "What's happening?" Clara demanded, jumping to her feet. "It's probably just a drill," Daniel assured her, though his expression betrayed uncertainty. Back on Earth, Nathan boarded the last shuttle bound for the fleet. The device containing the coordinates to Elysium Prime weighed heavily in his pocket. As the shuttle lifted off, he looked out the window at the desolate planet below. Fires raged in the distance, painting the horizon in hues of orange and red. The air was thick with smoke, and the cries of those left behind carried on the wind. For a moment, Nathan considered staying. What right did he have to leave when so many others couldn't? But then he thought of Liam, of Clara, of all the people, counting on him to find answers. He tightened his grip on the device and whispered to himself, "It's not too late. Not yet." As the shuttle docked with the Exodus fleet, Nathan stepped aboard, ready to share his discovery. Unbeknownst to him, his arrival would spark a debate that would divide the fleet and, perhaps, determine the future of humanity itself. The Exodus fleet stretched across the void like a string of fragile beads, each ship carrying thousands of lives fleeing Earth's ruin. Clara Hayes stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, her eyes fixed on the navigation console. The hum of the engines vibrated through the floor beneath her boots. a constant reminder of their desperate journey. She tried to focus on her work, checking fuel levels and recalibrating systems, but her mind kept drifting back to Daniel's words. Elysium Prime. Could it really exist? And if it did, was it worth risking everything to find out? Her thoughts were interrupted by Captain Laura Bennett, a stern woman in her 50s with sharp features and an even sharper tone. "Clara," she called, snapping her fingers to get her attention. "I need an update on the engine diagnostics. Are we holding steady?" Clara nodded quickly, pulling up the data on her tablet. "Yes, ma'am. All systems are stable. We're running at 80% efficiency." "Good," Bennett replied, though her expression remained grim. "We can't afford any mistakes out here." Clara hesitated, wanting to ask about the rumors swirling among the crew, whispers of a lost colony and secret coordinates, but something in Bennett's posture warned her to stay silent. Instead, she returned to her station, pretending to review the numbers while secretly replaying Daniel's proposal in her head. Meanwhile, Nathan Brooks arrived on the Eternal Dawn, escorted by 2 security officers who eyed him suspiciously. He carried the device containing the encrypted files about Elysium Prime in a small satchel slung over his shoulder. His hands trembled slightly as he walked, not from fear, but from the weight of what he was about to do. When he reached the command center, Bennett was waiting for him, arms crossed. "What is this about?" she demanded, her voice cold. "You're not authorized to be here." Nathan took a deep breath, clutching the satchel tighter. "I have information that could change everything," he said firmly. "Coordinates to a colony we abandoned years ago. It might still be habitable." Bennett raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "And you expect me to believe this? We don't have time for wild goose chases." "It's not a chase," Nathan insisted. "It's our best shot. Earth is gone, and the Council has turned its back on us. If there's even a chance Elysium Prime survived, don't we owe it to humanity to try?" Bennett studied him for a moment, then sighed. "Fine. Show me what you've got." As Nathan connected the device to the ship's main computer, word of his discovery spread quickly through the fleet. By the time the decrypted coordinates appeared on the screen, a crowd had gathered in the command center. Among them was Daniel, who watched intently, his jaw clenched with determination. Clara stood near the back of the room, her heart pounding. She hadn't expected this kind of reaction. "This changes nothing," Bennett announced, breaking the tense silence. "Our orders are clear. Proceed to the neutral zone established by the Galactic Council. Diverting course would put us all at risk, but staying on course puts us at risk too," Daniel shouted, stepping forward. "The Council doesn't care about us. They never did. If Elysium Prime exists, it's our only hope." Voices erupted. In agreement, some shouting support for Daniel, others siding with Bennett. The room dissolved into chaos, tempers flaring as people argued over the future of the fleet. Clara felt torn, unsure which side to take. On one hand, following the Council's plan offered safety, or at least the illusion of it. On the other, Daniel's words struck a chord deep within her. Wasn't survival worth taking a chance? Finally, Bennett raised her hand, silencing the crowd. "Enough," she barked. "This isn't a democracy. My decision stands. We stick to the original route." Daniel glared at her, his fists clenched. "Then I'll find someone who agrees with me." Before anyone could stop him, he stormed out of the room, followed by a group of supporters. Clara watched them go, her stomach churning. She wanted to follow, to argue, to do something, but she stayed rooted to the spot, overwhelmed by the weight of the choice ahead. Later that night, as the fleet drifted silently through space, Clara lay awake in her bunk, staring at the ceiling. The debate replayed in her mind over and over, each argument more compelling than the last. In the end, she realized, it wasn't just about finding a new home. It was about deciding who they wanted to be, a people willing to take risks, or a people content to fade quietly into the stars? The journey to Elysium Prime was long and tense, the silence between the crew members heavy with uncertainty. Clara Hayes sat in the cockpit of the lead ship, her hands resting lightly on the controls. Outside, the vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly, dotted only by distant stars that seemed cold and indifferent. She glanced at the navigation screen, where the coordinates Nathan had provided blinked steadily. They were getting closer. Daniel Carter stood nearby, his arms crossed. As he stared out the viewport, he hadn't slept much since leaving the Exodus fleet, the weight of leadership pressing down on him. "How long until we arrive?" he asked, his voice breaking the quiet. "Another 12 hours, Clara replied without looking up. Her tone was calm, but inside, she felt anything but. What if they reached Elysium Prime and found nothing? What if it was worse than nothing, ruins or danger waiting for them? Nathan, seated at a console behind them, reviewed the data again and again, searching for answers. "The energy readings are still there," he said finally, trying to sound reassuring. "Whatever is on that planet, it's active." Clara didn't respond. Instead, she focused on the task ahead, running system checks and ensuring the ship's engines were ready for descent. The other two vessels followed closely, their lights faintly visible through the darkness. It was eerie, traveling like this, no communication from Earth, no sign of life anywhere around them, just the hum of their engines and the endless void. When they finally entered Elysium Prime's atmosphere, the sight below stunned them. The planet was beautiful, rolling green hills, shimmering lakes, and towering mountains under a pale blue sky. But something felt off. There were no signs of human activity, no cities or structures visible from orbit. It was as if the colony had vanished without a trace. "Start scanning for ruins," Daniel ordered as they descended. "If people lived here, they must have left something behind." The ships landed near what appeared to be an old settlement, its skeletal remains, half buried in vines and moss. As the group stepped onto the surface, the air smelled sweet, almost too perfect. Clara scanned the horizon, her hand instinctively reaching for the weapon at her side. Everything seemed peaceful, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. Nathan led the way into the ruins, his scanner beeping softly as it picked up traces of technology. This was a hub for their communications, he explained, pointing to a crumbling structure. Inside, they found holographic projectors and rusted equipment, remnants of a once thriving community. Clara activated one of the projectors, and a flickering image appeared, a man in a lab coat, his face gaunt and weary. "To whoever finds this," the recording began, "we failed. The Weaver came, offering knowledge and power, but at a cost we could not pay. Those who accepted, changed. Those who refused, fled. If you're watching this, know that Elysium Prime is cursed." The message ended abruptly, leaving the group in stunned silence. "The Weaver," Clara whispered, turning to Nathan. "What does that mean?" Before he could answer, a low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. The ground beneath their feet trembled slightly, and shadows moved across the walls, shifting and twisting in unnatural ways. Daniel grabbed Clara's arm. "We need to leave, now." But Nathan hesitated, staring at the source of the noise, a pulsating orb of light hovering in the distance. "Wait," he said, his voice barely audible. "It's coming for us." The orb grew brighter, expanding until it filled the entire room. And then, a voice echoed in their minds, soft yet overwhelming. "Why have you returned?" it asked. "Neither kind nor cruel. You abandoned this place. You abandoned me." Clara backed away, her heart racing. "What is that thing?" Nathan swallowed hard, his eyes wide. "It's the Weaver." Tensions aboard the Exodus fleet reached a boiling point as Daniel Carter rallied his growing group of supporters. They gathered in one of the smaller cargo holds, far from the prying eyes of Captain Bennett and her crew. The air was thick with whispers and restless energy, each person clutching onto hope like it was their last lifeline. Clara stood near the entrance, her arms crossed, unsure if she belonged there or not. She had followed Daniel out of curiosity, but now she felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Daniel stood on a makeshift platform, a stack of crates, his voice steady and commanding. "We've been told to trust the council, to follow their plan without question," he began, his eyes scanning the crowd. "But look where that's gotten us. Earth is dying, and the council has abandoned us. If we keep following their orders, we'll end up just like our home, forgotten and left behind." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Someone shouted, "What's your plan?" Then Daniel pointed to a holographic map projected onto the wall, showing the fleet's current trajectory and the location of Elysium Prime. "This is our chance," he said firmly. "Elysium Prime could be our new beginning. We can't let fear stop us from trying." Clara stepped forward, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "And what if it's not there? What if we waste time and resources chasing a ghost?" Daniel met her gaze, unflinching. "Then at least we tried. At least we didn't give up without a fight." The room fell silent for a moment, the gravity of his words sinking in. Clara looked around at the faces of the people, men, women, even children, all searching for something to believe in. She realized that for many of them, this wasn't just about survival. It was about reclaiming a sense of purpose, of dignity. Before she could say more, Nathan Brooks entered the hold, his presence drawing immediate attention. He carried the device with the coordinates, holding it up for everyone to see. "I decrypted the files," he said, his voice calm but urgent. "The data suggests Elysium Prime was never fully abandoned. There are signs of readings, atmospheric changes. Something is still there." The crowd erupted into excited chatter, hope flickering like a flame in the darkness. Clara felt her resolve wavering. Could they really do this? Could they defy orders and take such a risk? Captain Bennett, however, was not idle. News of the meeting reached her quickly, and she arrived with a squad of security officers, storming into the cargo hold. Her face was a mask of fury. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded, glaring at Daniel. "Mutiny. Is that what you're planning?" "It's not mutiny," Daniel shot back. "It's survival. You're willing to lead us to the council's neutral zone, knowing full well they don't care about us. We're taking control of our own destiny." Bennett took a step closer, her voice low and dangerous. "You think splitting the fleet is a good idea? Dividing our resources? Do you have any idea how reckless this is?" "It's no more reckless than trusting the council," Daniel countered. His tone softened slightly as he turned to the crowd. "Anyone who wants to come with us, who believes in this mission, should have the right to choose." Bennett's jaw tightened. "Fine, choose. But know this. Anyone who leaves will be on their own. I won't send rescue ships when you fail." Clara watched as people began to make their decisions. Some stayed loyal to Bennett, unwilling to risk everything. Others, emboldened by Daniel's words, pledged to join him. In the end, nearly half. The group decided to leave, commandeering 3 smaller vessels docked within the fleet as the splinter group prepared to depart. Clara found herself torn. She wanted to stay with the Eternal Dawn, where she knew the systems, the crew, and her place. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that staying meant giving up. When Daniel approached her one last time, she finally nodded. "I'm coming with you," she said quietly. He smiled, relief washing over his face. "Thank you." As the smaller ships detached from the fleet, Clara looked back at the Eternal Dawn through a viewport. It was a painful sight, watching the ship and the life she knew grow smaller and smaller. But as they set course for Elysium Prime, a strange sense of determination settled over her. For better or worse, they were forging their own path now. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what humanity needed.